Okay, welcome back. This is Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is about multiple worksheets, multiple workbooks, and doing templates. So as always, we're going to start with the learning objective. So go flip to page 367, and let's go over the list. So it starts off with learn how to group worksheets. Okay, yep, we're going to do that. Create summary worksheets. Yep, pretty cool. And there's a homework assignment similar to that. Work with multiple workbooks. Collaborate using multiple workbooks. That's going to be a little tough to demo, so we'll talk about it, but we won't actually do too much. Use existing templates. Oh yeah, that's some cool stuff. And then creating your own templates. Okay, so starting off with more like a philosophical discussion on page 368, they talk about how an Excel spreadsheet can be like a two-dimensional bunch of stuff. So here, rows and columns, right? So here's rows and columns for one person's time. This is like their time card in this spa. So whoever the devil Ista Christie is, this is rows and columns for that particular person. So this is obviously a two-dimensional array of data. So if I go to the next person, well, that's also a two-dimensional array of data. And I go to the next one, that's also a two-dimensional array of data. And you can tell a lot of the stuff doesn't change. I mean, the stuff up at the top, like the time column, the service, the headings, all those things don't change. Obviously, the stuff does. So if you were to consider these three worksheets together, it actually makes a third dimension on this thing. So instead of just having an X and Y coordinate system, X going this way, being the letters, and Y going this way, being the numbers. There's also a Z connection, kind of going through the screen, so to speak. So this provides me a three-dimensional cube of data. So whenever I do a sum, I can do a sum on a row, I can do a sum on a column, or I could do a sum on something going this direction. Okay, so it really is cube data. Okay, now clearly this only works when you're trying to make a cube of data. It only works if the data, the sheets that you're thinking about are all kind of sort of the same. For example, if I go over to here to like this one, oh, that's a bad example. Let me find a better one. Okay, spa sales. Okay, if I want to group that with this and say, okay, I'm going to make a three-dimensional model with that. Well, the machine would oblige you. It would say, whatever, dude. If you say that that's three-dimensional, fine, go right ahead. Will it make any sense? Well, of course not. The only way it makes sense is if that third dimension, everything is in the exact same spot. So, for example, this 8 a.m. and this service message has to be in the exact same X and Y coordinates so that the Z coordinates all line up. So it's the X and Y on this page match the X and Y on that page, matches the X and Y on the other page. Okay, so I think we kind of beat that one to death. All right, so the first thing you have to learn is how to make a group. So the group is how Microsoft Excel handles that third dimension. Okay. So a cool way of doing this is I select a bunch of these tabs down here at the bottom. Now I'm going to use the control key. I'm going to hold the control key down. So I've clicked on this first one. Holding the control key, and I'm going to click on the second one and the third one. Okay, now as I did this, you may not have noticed, but way up here, I now have this thing called group. Now it's pretty subtle, and you may not have noticed. But right now, I have grouped these three spreadsheets. So I'm just going to go to I'm just going to go to a cell in the spreadsheet. How about right over here? And I'm just going to type the word hello. Okay? No big deal, right? Okay, cool. So I'm going to go to this one, and wow, it says hello in that square. And wow, it says hello in that square. Okay, so the point of groups is whatever you do while it is grouped, whatever you do to one also happens to all. Now, I will tell you, this is a little confusing because an awful lot of the time that is precisely what you want, and then there'll be times when it's not what you want. So for example, you're down here and you're looking at this person's stuff, and they go, oh man, look, they misspelled, you know, deep tissue. Okay, so you go here and you go, well, let me fix that. You know, I'm gonna go in here and you know, what? That's a bad example. Okay, how about this one? Instead of having it at 8 o'clock, this one person started at 8:05. Now, so I say, okay, I'm gonna fix that. So now it's 8:05, but inadvertently you've converted everybody over to starting at 8:05, and that really wasn't what you wanted. So this is not a very good visual cue that you're grouped, but you do need to be paying attention to what is grouped and what is not. When are you grouped, when you're not, because making little tweaks here could be precisely what you want, or it could be nothing like what you want. A lot of people end up, they'll either, here's the real world scenario for when you use grouping. A lot of people use grouping at the very beginning of a spreadsheet. Like you have a spreadsheet and you've got, like in this case, I've got employee time cards. So you would build all the employees. So you got 50 employees, so there'd be 50 of these sheets. And you would use grouping because once you've got one of them built, it would just automatically convert over to the other. So you don't have to copy and paste between sheets or any of that stuff. All you have to basically do is have them grouped, and then poof, it'll pop on through. Okay. So at the beginning of a spreadsheet, or at the end of the life of the spreadsheet, in other words, there's hardly any changes going on now, and all you're doing is, like, you want to get a summary. No one's entering data in any of the sheets anymore, but you want to be able to get a summary of everything, like with the Z-axis, that kind of stuff. So I would probably turn grouping on to be able to make that happen. So a lot of people use grouping at the beginning of the life cycle of a spreadsheet and at the end of a life cycle of a spreadsheet, and typically don't have it turned on necessarily. For example, if I left this grouped as it is now, and Kendra showed up and said, oh, well, let me put my time in. Okay, Kendra would put her, I guess it's a her, put her time in here, and it would overwrite everyone else's time. Okay, so it's a constant battle of remembering, do I have it grouped, do I not have it grouped? And I swear, if I was Microsoft, I would put a big flashing warning sign up, you know, flashing lights going, warning, warning, Will Robinson, the worksheets are grouped, they're grouped. Is this really what you want? Okay, but they don't have that. Okay, so entering data. So let's create our own rather than use their example. I'm gonna just create my own. So I'm gonna go here, just a plain old Excel spreadsheet. So let's say, for example, that I want to do kind of sort of similar to what they did in their example. I'm going to have like time. I'm going to have, I don't know, whatever the project they were working on. How many hours. What the bill rate is. And total. Okay. Okay, so if I go here and this is, I know that this is going to be for employee number 1, so I'm just going to go here and make this to Bob. And this one's going to be, you know, Sally. And this one is going to be Fred. Okay, so I want all these things, I want to start up with this part being the same. So wouldn't it be kind of cool if I went here and grouped all these guys, holding the control key down, lighting these guys up. Now they're grouped. So now I can go in here and I can, you know, do my formatting, make it bold and centered and turned on the borders and all that kind of good stuff. So then down here I would say, okay, so, and let's say everyone starts at 8 a.m. And let's do a 9 a.m. And okay, I'm going to use the little fill handle. Remember how, you know, once you get like 2 of these things going, and I'll grab this guy and say, okay, so I'm going to go down to, I guess they don't work that, they work at 5 o'clock. Okay, cool. Now that's a good example of when to use grouping, because let's go see what Sally's up to. Okay, isn't that pretty cool? Now you will notice though that the text that I typed before I did the grouping didn't appear. So grouping, it doesn't go retroactively back and say, oh, my headings belong, okay? But there is a cool way you can do that. And I'm kind of jumping ahead a couple pages. Okay, to make the header appear on all the rest of the spreadsheets, you could just copy and paste from this first one to one of the second ones, because it doesn't really matter which one you're entering it in. Doesn't matter if you know, just because I'm entering it in the first one happens to be Bob, doesn't mean that the same thing wouldn't occur if I was doing this on Fred. But there's a better technique. So I'm going to light this guy up, and over here there's a thing called fill. Now we've been using autofill a lot, so this time I'm going to say fill across worksheets, which basically means sort of like a three-dimensional copy and paste. Instead of copy and paste once, it means copy and paste as many times as it takes to get to the z-axis to make it work. And then it's going to ask me, do I want to do just the content, just the formatting, or everything? And in this case, everything makes a lot of sense. So I hit the button, and then let's go look. Does Sally have the heading? Yep. Does Fred have the heading? Yep. Cool. All right, we are cooking. Now, here's the thing that's kind of weird. For example, I would never put like the project as part of a group, or the number of hours you spent, or the bill rate, but I kind of know what the formula for the total would be. It'd be the hours times the bill rate. Now, once again, I'm gonna group these guys, and I'm gonna go here and say equals, you know, hour times bill rate. Now, do I need to do anything funky here? Just because I have this thing grouped, do I need to have like fill between, you know, use this fill across worksheet or anything? Or is this actually going to work in all of the sheets? So let's go look. I'm going to go here. I'm going to type in, you know, oh, by the way, all you have to do to break a group is just click on the tab individually. You know, like when I lit these guys up with the control key like this, you see the group thing, but if I click on just one of them, it makes the group go away. Okay, so it's pretty doggone easy to break a group. So if I go in here and put 4 and 4, I go, yeah, let's go see if it did anything. Nope. So yeah, that worked exactly like I expected. You don't have to do anything special. Just like I didn't do anything special when I did the autofill here, and it didn't do anything special. So formulas work just the same way as text. When you have it grouped, it goes through that z-axis. If I don't have it grouped, then it won't go through the z-axis. So it kind of sort of makes sense. At least I certainly hope so. Okay, so let's talk about what's different between a grouped set of worksheets and a not grouped set. Well, one of the things that's kind of weird, if I group this guy, let me group some more stuff. Okay, when you go to the data tab, everything is gone. The data is designed to be a single element. It's supposed to be like the top level kind of element in a spreadsheet, and so therefore they never even conceived of the idea that you would use data in a third dimension. So they basically said, we ain't playing that game, so no data. Okay. And a couple of things that are kind of odd. Tables, you remember how we did insert table, right? So look at all these things that are kind of blocked out. They don't want you to do pictures and, you know, charts, and so almost all of the data and almost all the insert are grayed out and missing when you have it grouped. Okay, and that kind of makes sense, because if I was to create a table here, you know, how would that table, you know, react with another table behind it? You know, again, tables and data are supposed to be like top level things in your spreadsheet, and you're not supposed to have like a gazillion of them. Okay. Here's one that kind of got me by surprise. You know how I love conditional formatting. I go in here and I say, you know, if the rate is greater than, let's go to one that has something in it. If the total is greater than you know 5, make it red as an example. Well, you can do that on individual spreadsheets. You know, I can go in here and use conditional formatting. But if I light 3 of these guys up, conditional formatting goes away. Hey, that one I don't really understand. The others I could kind of nod my head and go, yeah, okay, I understand why they did that. But conditional formatting? Whatever. Okay, this is probably a good place to stop for the 15-minute mark. We'll pick this thing up again in just a few.